Wow, I'm quite disappointed that HBO Max got rid of all these movies from their catalog and in their place ushered in whatever the hell this is. For those of you who don't know, Evan Rachel Wood and a bunch of other people released statements last February detailing allegations against Marilyn Manson for basically everything disgusting a person can inflict upon other people. For the past year, the accusers have been showered with unquestioning praise and press coverage. Other than his initial Instagram statement, Manson stayed quiet and sometimes had his lawyer, Howard King, rebuttal against questions or statements being made about him, but not very often. Last week, Manson filed a hard-hitting lawsuit against Evan Rachel Wood and her ex-girlfriend Ilma Gore. Both parts of Evan Rachel Wood's documentary, Phoenix Rising, aired this week at the time of recording, and Evan has gone on multiple talk shows the same week to advertise it. Because so many things are happening all at once, I feel the need to throw my hat into the ring. I believed Evan Rachel Wood and the other accusers when they first came out with their statements, but after spending the bulk of 2021 looking into everything while in wait-and-see mode for a lot of that time, I can't stand by their claims against Manson and haven't for many months. Here are 15 reasons why I believe Marilyn Manson is innocent, or 15 reasons why I no longer believe his accusers.
At least if you're going to be an abusive psychopath, be original.
The accusers were all recruited via email and text message by Ilma Gore with the help of one of Manson's former personal assistants, Ashley Walters. She had everyone's contact info from whoever worked with Manson in the early 2010s. YouTuber Greta Aurora made a video last year about her modeling gig and fling with Manson. She was also recruited and put up screenshots of her emails from Ilma Gore. Ilma also tried to recruit people on Reddit. These replies are still up online, and they're practically exact copies of the emails Greta Aurora received. It's also worth noting that Manson references Ilma Gore's recruitment messages in his lawsuit.
At least if you're going to be an abusive psychopath, be original.
The accusers all wrote their statements together. That's why they all sound practically the same. One of the main accusers, Ashley Morgan Smithline, admitted this in an Instagram DM last year.
At least if you're going to be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Speaking of Ashley Morgan Smithline, she claimed in her People magazine interview that Manson never touched her face because she was a model, but then in her lawsuit, claims Manson elbowed her sharply in the nose and broke it. Oh yeah, to make matters worse, she also contradicts herself in the same video.
During a rape, there was a struggle, and my nose broke.
A few moments later.
He didn't hit my face. I was a model, it was his job. He didn't hit my face.
Ashley also claims in the same interview that she never stood up to Manson while he allegedly assaulted her, but her lawsuit reads that she said no and resisted multiple times.
I never stood up to him, ever, because I knew that would be more abuse, more torture.
Last year, Ashley posted on her Instagram story a Pinterest photo of a man's neck with love bites and claimed it was of herself after one of Manson's alleged violent outbursts. After people found out what the actual image was via reverse image search, she deleted it.
At least if you're going to be an abusive psychopath, be original.
The accusers lied about the bad girl room. They alleged that Manson locked his girlfriends and the women who worked for him who acted out of turn in a room in his apartment he dubbed the bad girl room. As told by Paula Baby, one of Manson's former personal assistants from around when Evan and Manson started dating, and confirmed by Leslie Lane, who was around the couple a lot, turns out there are no locks on the door, and this odd sauna-looking room was mostly used as a recording and photo shooting space. It was already present in Manson's apartment before he lived there. The Bad Girl Room isn't a room that Manson would lock women into torture. It's nothing more than an American Horror Story reference joke. In an early episode of the show, the protagonist was a girl with Down syndrome. Her mother would abuse her and gaslight her into thinking she was ugly. If the girl stepped out of line, her mother would lock her in a closet full of mirrors she dubbed the Bad Girl Room. The girl was forced to look at herself and be traumatized by her own reflection. If you want a more in-depth look at what Manson's Bad Girl Room was really used for, I recommend checking out this short video from the Marilyn Manson Uncancelled YouTube channel.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
The accusers lied about Manson's film Groupie. Some of them claimed the female lead, Paula Weiss, was underage, she was 22 years old, and some even said she was dead. In the original Jane Doe lawsuit filed against Manson, she spends at least a page talking about how horrified she was when Manson showed her Groupie, then proceeds to allude that Paula Weiss is dead. She also implies that Paula wasn't in Manson's Long Hard Road Out of Hell music video by saying she, quote, did not resemble the woman in the video. For reference, this was Paula in the video. In an interview conducted by YouTuber Colonel Kurtz, Paula talks about working with Manson on Groupie and what the environment was really like on set. Manson goes into detail on the Groupie falsehoods in his lawsuit as well, and mentions some of Paula's other credentials. Needless to say, Paula Weiss clearly isn't dead, she's actually quite alive and well.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Esme Bianco lied about Manson trafficking her into the U.S. She claimed Manson trafficked her into the U.S. for her to participate and suffer abuse in a film he was making for his own gratification. Manson told her beforehand what kinds of things she would be doing for his music video. At the time, she consented to doing those things. Marilyn Manson paid for all of Esme Bianco's travel and living accommodations and recommended her to higher ups in the Hollywood industry, which played a big part in how she got the role of Roz in Game of Thrones. This is not at all what the definition of human trafficking is. She also claimed she was harbored.
I was harbored?
I don't think Esme knows what that word means either. She mentions there was no camera crew for Manson's music video, that they were filming everything on flip cams, and that the video was never released to the public. This was a music video for his song, I Want to Kill You Like They Do in the Movies. Manson filmed the video on flip cams to give off a found footage vibe. This wasn't a snuff film like Esme wants us to believe. This was a real music video that didn't get released. Same goes for Manson's film Phantasmagoria, The Visions of Lewis Carroll. Esme also tries to claim this wasn't a legitimate project, but it was actually a movie Manson had been making years before Esme started working with him. It was in production hell for a long time, then scrapped after poor reactions to the trailer, started up again, and then shut down again. The most we have of the film online is a 90-second trailer from back in the day. Esme also says she was tied to a prayer kneeler half naked and whipped by Manson for his found footage music video. She provided a picture to the press that she said is her back after the ordeal. First of all, we can't see Esme's face, so we can't really tell if that's her back or not. Second, she claims these are whip marks, but there are clear rope patterns in the skin, looking as though the person in the photo had been tied tightly with a rope. Whip marks tend to look like quick, straight cuts, not rope indentations. Curved rope indentations in particular, that's just physics. Esme would know this because she was a pro in the BDSM scene when she met Manson, and that's why he hired her to star in his music video. Personally, this factoid about Esme leads me to believe that she's purposefully keeping us ignorant.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Ashley Walters lied about Greta Aurora in her lawsuit against Manson. She claimed Greta Aurora was a minor when she met Manson and that she was taken advantage of by him. Ashley also claimed he bragged about it afterwards to her. She put forth this lawsuit long after Greta made her video about her weekend with Manson, in which she clearly stated she was an adult and consented to and enjoyed everything they did. If Ashley Walters had all this dirt on Manson, she wouldn't feel the need to lie about someone else's experience with him.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Emma Rachel Wood lied about many things. One of them being that Manson hid his drug and alcohol addiction from her when they were together.
He'd hidden a terrible drug and alcohol problem from me.
Yes, Mr. I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me. She claimed this in 2019 when she testified towards the California Senate on behalf of the Phoenix Act, whose official website has been down for months, by the way. This was before she named Manson as her alleged abuser, so she could get away with saying this about someone who's always been open about his addiction problems to the world. In her documentary Phoenix Rising, she says they were drinking absinthe together while working with Manson on Phantasmagoria. In short, Evan's drug abuse aspects of her allegations are extremely inconsistent at best and completely farcical at worst.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Ashley Walters, in her lawsuit, talked about the summer of 2011 when, while she was working as Manson's personal assistant, she received a DUI from crashing his Jaguar with Esme Bianco. Ashley then spun the story like she and Esme were drunk driving in Manson's car because they were so terrified of his unpredictable rages that they drank their sorrows away to chill out and comfort each other. Ashley also claims Manson was mad at her for hanging out with Esme, his recent ex-girlfriend at the time. According to Ashley, that's why he fired her. Manson was actually mad that Ashley took a drunk joyride with the bestie in her boss's Jaguar and totaled it while on the job. Marilyn Manson rarely buys vehicles for himself and doesn't have a driver's license, so his Jaguar was quite valuable. He briefly recalled this incident in an interview with theconsequence.net back in 2017. That same summer of 2011, Manson forgave Ashley and hired her back, which she tried to spin as an act of nefariousness in her lawsuit. Since Manson was rightfully mad at Ashley for being completely unprofessional, to put it lightly, I personally think his hiring her back sounds more like an act of generosity and strong character than a sneaky predatory tactic, even with all the evil sounding crap Ashley tried to cloak it in.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Evan lied on how her costume came about at the infamous Halloween party she attended, where she was wearing a Hitler stash. She claimed she was given a large amount of drugs and alcohol, and that someone else drew on the mustache while she was doped up. She drew it on herself, as confirmed by Manson and Leslie Lane, who were very close to Evan and Manson, attended that party, and saw Evan draw on the Hitler stash with eyeliner. Manson also said that night Evan called herself Eva Braun of the Dead. She also drew the mustache on other people. Thank you, Casey Crazy Diamond, for reposting these photos on Instagram, by the way. In an interview with Manson on Colonel Kurtz's YouTube channel, he says Evan was actually an experienced coke user, to the point where she was given the nickname Snowflake, had her own dealer, and would keep some with her in a bag wherever she went. Leslie Lane, who took pictures at the party, said in a recent interview with Colonel Kurtz that Evan bragged about snorting cocaine since she was 15, and even pressured Leslie into snorting a line. Manson said in another Colonel Kurtz video that Evan was usually the cocaine supplier for the friends she and Manson would have over and would cut lines for everyone.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Evan and Ilma fabricated police reports against Leslie Lane in December 2020 and involved Lindsay Warner, Manson's wife, in this. They lied about Leslie and Lindsay conspiring to release photos of an underage, don't flatter yourself, Evan, you were just under the wire at 20 years old, intoxicated Evan for blackmail. Ilma Gore sent a screenshot of the reports to Leslie. Leslie looked up the case number provided in the screenshot and her own name in multiple formats on lacourt.org and found that the number led to a case opened in 1991. Nothing came up in her name. Evan tried to shut her up before she even spoke. Leslie was there for a lot of their relationship, heavily due to the fact that she and her partner at the time lived across the hall from Manson and Evan. Personally, I don't believe innocent people would create false reports to keep others quiet.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Annie Abrams, one of the accusers, is not a sexual assault survivor. She's a catfish and has never met Marilyn Manson either. She's also a scam artist and has stolen money from various people all over the world, using fake sob stories for them to buy into. Annie Abrams isn't even her real name, yet she still managed to work her way into the group of accusers. Granted, Ashley Smithline called Annie crazy in the same DM thread where she told on everyone, but not before Ashley Walters included Annie in her lawsuit, which tells me no one did a background check on this woman before siding with her. Oh, by the way, I just remember that someone leaked a conversation between themselves and Ashley Morgan Smithline last year. Annie apparently asked the group of accusers to go along with her lies and also to lie for her, which they did, because Annie was tagged in posts involving the other accusers, credited as one of them in the press, and name dropped in Ashley Walters' lawsuit. Why would innocent people willingly go along with this until it doesn't work out in their favor? If they were serious about their own allegations, they would have kicked Annie out of the group as soon as they found out she was lying. See I'm a Real Boy 138, Survivors of Annie, and Pathological Propaganda on Instagram for more details on Annie Abrams.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Much like Annie Abrams, Ilma Gore is also a scam artist. She's cheated many innocent people out of money on more than one occasion. Colonel Kurtz recently did an interview with Jesse from the Pod Awful podcast, who was scammed by Ilma 7 years ago. By the way, while Jesse's Ilma Gore story is important for this video, for learning about Ilma's questionable background, and for the Manson case, I don't encourage supporting him as a person. This particular scam was a tattoo service crowdsourced on Kickstarter, where Ilma would let people put whatever tattoo they wanted on her as a human canvas project. The money they paid her would go to the homeless youth organization SPY. For years, she didn't get Jesse's tattoo, even though he paid her right away, and she reassured him she'd get it. She eventually got the tattoo after Jesse chased her down many times. I wonder how many other customers she did this to, and if SPY ever saw that money she raised. Another one of Ilma's alleged hoaxes is from spring 2016, where after her tiny penis painting of Donald Trump went viral, she alleges a Trump supporter got out of his car, yelled, "Trump 2016!" and punched her in the face just days after she returned home from London. The bruise on her eye looks rather light for a fresh sucker punch, I think. Others thought the same. On May 4th, 2016, media personality Mike Cernovich posted about the incident on his Danger in Play podcast website, detailing his suspicions of it being a hate crime hoax. Quick note, Mike Cernovich is a very biased source, but I want to highlight a few salient points from his post because he did actually make some. Ilma Gore's black eye is inconsistent with a sucker punch. Here is a picture of me 10 minutes after being sucker punched outside of a bar on the left, and then the next day on the right. In those photos, I was 6'1" and 190 pounds. As you can see, there is blood everywhere. The next day, your eye swells up. That's how your eye heals. There's short-term inflammation due to an immune response. Your eye swells, and then the swelling goes away. This is Gore's picture from 2 days after the alleged assault. Gore is tiny, yet a man sucker punched her without tearing her eye open. There is no cut. Her eye was not swollen shut. Ilma Gore did not mention being knocked unconscious. If a full-grown man or even a teenage boy sucker punched Gore, she'd have been knocked unconscious. Her story does not indicate that she was knocked out or even knocked down. A petite woman punched by a full-size man would have been knocked out. Ilma Gore did not post the police report online, making fact-checking impossible. According to one mainstream media outlet, Gore filed a police report. The police report is not posted, and the report is described thusly. Gore filed a police report, which she sent to the Daily News. The report says the attacker fled in a car right after the punch, and that Gore was not seriously injured. Gore told the news the aggressor was with a group of guys in the car. Police would have asked for a detailed description of her alleged attackers. Why wasn't this provided in the article? Ilma's specialty is scams, and these two examples show she's quite practiced. She knows what tugs on the media's heartstrings. She allegedly wrote on the note in Manson's lawsuit that one of her main goals with the Phoenix Act is to make money.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Ilma Gore spread multiple lies for years about her twin sister Brighton Gore, some of them being that Brighton is a horrible mother to her kids and that she's dead. Ilma also allegedly used Brighton's personal info overseas, pretending to be her. Nikki Noir, someone who lived with Brighton and her daughters for 10 years, has attested to this. It's also worth noting that Brighton has unsubtly referenced Ilma in her social media bios for a brief period of time. Manson also talks about this in his lawsuit against Evan and Ilma, but this info has been public since at least mid-2021. By the way, thank you Mrs. Trickster88 for finding proof of Ilma's restraining order for cyberstalking Brighton.
Like, at least if you're gonna be an abusive psychopath, be original.
Ilma Gore openly lashed out at Manson on Twitter for copyright claims because the pictures he used in his lawsuit, accidentally confirming that the evidence in Manson's lawsuit is real. Evan claims in her documentary and elsewhere that Manson said Hitler was the first rock star, when he actually said in the opening line of an essay he wrote published by Rolling Stone in 2012, Jesus Christ was the first rock star. David Bowie, one of Evan's longtime idols, was the one who said Hitler was the first rock star during his Thin White Duke era in an interview with Playboy. I suppose this is a very minor lie in the grand scheme of things, but it's on the list to show that Evan just lies about things no matter what level of seriousness they are. Oh yeah, there's also this thing. Evan Rachel Wood's claims about Manson isolating her from her friends and family are ever changing and make little sense. In her 2019 testimony, she claimed that she would shoo away her friends and family if they ever expressed concern for her. She claimed he would totally cut her off from communication. During her interview for Phoenix Rising on The View, she backtracks on her initial claim and says she did see her parents and friends, but it was rare and heavily monitored. She also says she was able to communicate with friends and that they'd often circle Manson's home to check on her, even though in her testimony to Congress a few years back, she says Manson bugged her phone and hacked into all her devices to monitor her because he wanted her all to himself. Wouldn't he have known that her friends were circling their house to check to see if Evan was okay and then ban them? During their relationship, it was well known that Evan was often away working on multiple movie projects, and Manson was powering up in the music industry after having almost retired after Golden Age of Grotesque. One of the couple's personal disgruntlements is that they never spent enough time with each other. Based on public records from that time period, the isolation claims are just more contradictory noise from Evan that I find quite hard to believe. Evan allegedly helped Ilma Gore create a fake FBI letter to scare everyone into thinking there's a criminal investigation happening with Manson. Manson's house was raided by the LA Sheriff County in November, but there's no criminal investigation happening with him. She also used this same letter in her custody battle with her ex-husband Jamie Bell, who, by the way, says all the Manson stuff regarding Evan just came out of nowhere for him. Manson showed a text screenshot in his lawsuit, allegedly between Evan and Ilma. Alabama's one of Evan's nicknames, by the way. He also alleged that the name and signature used for this letter is of a real FBI agent, who confirmed she was never involved in a criminal investigation of Marilyn Manson. If this is all true, which so far it's looking that way, forging an official FBI letter and signature could potentially land Evan and Ilma jail time. Most of the accusers have been friends with each other for a very long time and continued posting positively about Manson's concerts and premieres years after their alleged abuse occurred. Some even posted pictures with visible Manson paraphernalia in the background after releasing their statements about him. I perused through the socials of some of the accusers, and it wasn't very hard to find positive Manson-related posts still up on their accounts. Multiple people have called the accusers out on this over the last year, so you'd think they'd notice and delete their posts with Manson stuff in them, especially the ones directly promoting him. It should not be this easy for me, your average internet rando, to do a quick scroll and find these still up over a year after the initial allegations went public. Let's also not forget that some of them, Ashley Walters, followed him on his socials and engaged with his posts as late as 2020. Like I mentioned earlier, when talking about Ashley Walters, the accusers then tried to backtrack and say that they still attended Manson's concert for many years after their alleged abuse occurred because they all had repressed memories. Even without Manson's damning lawsuit, it's still a very flimsy, far-fetched claim in my opinion. I can understand maybe a couple accusers at most suffering from repressed memories, but not all of them, as it's a fringe diagnosis. Also, from what I understand, repressed memories don't just come back by chatting with friends and having a cocktail. You tend to get triggered in oddly specific ways. Ilma Gore is allegedly the friend who swatted Manson last year, fabricating it as a wellness check. Manson's never met Ilma, and swatting is traditionally done to harass people, not to help them. It's funny because I remember reading about that incident in the news last year and thinking, some friend Manson has, why the hell would you gather law enforcement and helicopters to check on your friend's mental health? The answer is that you wouldn't. Even people who think it's okay to call the police to check on someone surely aren't this stupid. Now I know the swatting and timing of it was very deliberate. It made Manson look more threatening in the eyes of the media. From what I've heard, it's illegal to swat someone in the state of California. Even if you don't agree with some of the stuff, or any of the stuff I said, it still means a lot that you're taking the time to consider the other side of the Manson case. I hope you don't just take my word for any of this. I encourage you to do the research yourself if you're interested. If you're unsure of where to start, there are many people I will link below the video who've been looking into the Manson allegations since the beginning, and they're quite thorough with their work. To bring up a few of the top dogs, Colonel Kurtz, whom I've mentioned, is a great YouTube channel to check out. She has multiple interviews with people who know/knew Manson and Evan and the other accusers on her channel. Greta Aurora, whom I've also previously mentioned, has also talked about the Manson situation on multiple occasions on her YouTube channel. She often uses the Manson allegations to discuss broader implications of the case and how it mirrors current attitudes of Western culture. Celtic Iron has also been talking about this case for months, and he has many videos about it on his channel, some of them involving him chatting with Colonel Kurtz. Karis is another YouTuber who has an entire playlist going over each of the accusers and their allegations on her channel. If you're new to all this and need a starting point that's more organized and detailed than my video, Karis' playlist is a great place to go. She's also made multiple other videos on the Manson case, including one just about Evan Rachel Wood's questionable past. E-Hacker's usual coverage is of Depp vs. Heard, but he's also made plenty of videos over the course of the Manson case. Most of them are short, and he's also featured Colonel Kurtz in a couple of his occasional longer videos. I recommend checking out his channel if you want to hear what's happening in a bite-sized timeline of events. Ella, Rita, and Beatrice Exposing the Truth is another great channel to check out. Their content focuses mainly on Ashley Morgan Smithline. Lately they've been putting out videos where they discuss other points of the Manson case as well, and those are also worth a watch. Dr. Soup is another YouTuber who has a decent amount of Manson videos on her channel, some shorter with her own analyses, and some with guests that tend to be live streams. She also has in-depth videos on the legal aspect of the Manson lawsuits and allegations, if you're interested in that side of things. Jordan Owen is a commentary YouTuber who's been discussing the Manson case recently on his channel. Like me, he too believed Evan Rachel Wood and the other accusers at first, but his mind slowly changed the more he looked into the reality of the allegations. His goal is to fill in the gaps of the Manson discourse that are being overlooked. If you want to hear even-handed takes that mainly focus on the conversations surrounding the Manson case, I recommend checking him out. Marilyn Manson Uncancelled is a highly detailed, well-thought-out, researched blog that posts weekly updates. I highly recommend this page to anyone wanting to know more about the case and find a buttload of info all in one spot. Stand By Your Manson is an Instagram account that points out in multiple ways how all the accusers have shot themselves in the foot in the past year. It also showcases a clip of Evan Rachel Wood doing Nazi salutes of her own accord in the wings of one of Manson's concerts. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention that Leslie Lane made Stand By Your Manson aware of this clip. In one of her interviews with Colonel Kurtz, she says she witnessed Evan doing Nazi salutes backstage every time Antichrist Superstar came on at Manson's concerts, and that other crew members also saw this. Apparently it was in a joking manner. It's also worth pointing out that Manson doesn't encourage the audience to Nazi salute at his concerts. It's actually common for the audience to clap their hands and spread them both out during Antichrist Superstar. 15 reasons is nowhere near the amount of reasons why I don't believe the accusers and believe Manson's innocent, which is why I cheated a bit with the honorable mentions. But I think these are all good places to start with. To be clear, I don't doubt people have had negative experiences with Marilyn Manson, and that he's been a dick to people in his career, including to his own bandmates. I'm not here to be like, Manson's a squeaky clean guy who's never done anything wrong. But being an asshole isn't the same as being an abusive monster. Based on everything I've seen thus far that's come to light since the initial allegations, I do not believe Manson fits the abusive monster category. I understand why you'd believe the accusers if you're either new to everything or saw the initial allegations veiled and didn't look back. I especially understand if you've been through any of what's detailed in the allegations in your own lives and felt connected to what the accusers said. I find it all the more reason to call out the Manson case bullshit. If you are either feeling shaky about everything or happen to be on Evan and Co.'s side, I'm not putting out this video expecting to totally win you over and believing Manson's innocence. Even though I'm clearly leaning towards Manson's side thus far, I made this video hoping to sow seeds of doubt at the very least. Feel free to leave a comment or question below, no matter what your opinion on this case is. Please do not threaten or harass each other in the comments section, and definitely do not threaten or harass anyone mentioned in this video. I don't condone any of that towards anyone. Thank you, and I wish you all a good rest of your day or night.
When there's an injustice, whether it's against you or someone you love or someone you believe in, stand up. Don't sit down. Don't sit down on them, because they need you.